There's one stock that is nearly ready to break out. It is connected to crypto in a huge way. It is a recent IPO, which means the price hasn't been agreed upon yet, hasn't stabilized. And if you're someone who likes opportunities with high reward and small risk, you like being in hot sectors like crypto, particularly with the current administration passing the Genius Act and urging crypto companies to come on shore and befriend or at least be congenial with regulators, which is what everybody wants in the first place, is for the regulation to be clear so that these crypto companies can comply and grow and know they can grow in the US, which is the best business environment. I'm not going to hold you hostage here. The ticker is CRCL, circle. And let's look at the chart. Let's see what it's got going on. Okay. So here's CRCL. It is a recent IPO as of June. And this is the most recent revenue numbers, okay? 50% increase year over year when the earnings came out in August. The forecasts were exceeded for EBITDA. Massive net loss of 400 million. Okay. Now, they did have to pay for the IPO. So that cost hundreds of millions of dollars because, you know, investment banks have to get paid. And look, there's also some stock compensation, some convertible debt. This is a mess of an IPO valuation scenario. So if it's a mess, why are we buying it? Because it's at a very important and you could say advantageous level, technically, where people aren't buying it to hold it for a year, but if you can buy it at $140 and risk, well, you don't even have to risk down to this 116 level, which is pretty clear. You can risk this 130 level. You're risking $10 to make potentially 40 or more. And this is what you call a breakout, guys. This is about as clear a day. A breakout. Now, there is a sort of level that's important again if it passes this 50-day moving average, okay? But if we look at the intraday, boom, okay? See how this moves over the next couple days? I think it is the better move compared to Coreweave. Coreweave is the Nvidia backed company. At this particular moment, Circle does look like it has a little bit of a more favorable opportunity to get in just because you're not able to risk as much. I mean, look, this is $110. This is $140. Look at Coreweave. This is $120. This is $90. Okay, so on a percentage basis, 40. I know this is getting nerdy, but this is 40%, and this is only 25%. Okay, so percentages really start to matter when you're talking about putting 10,000 shares or whatever your risk profile is into this stock. Now, for the fundamental folks, what the heck does this company even do? I told you about it being connected to crypto. Okay. It issues USDC. That's a stable coin backed by US dollar equivalent assets. Okay. And like I mentioned, it operates within the regulated framework established by the Genius Act, by the government. Okay. So if USDC is considered the stablecoin, essentially what it means is if you have a bunch of Bitcoin, you can hold it in USDC and it's a level of stability that you might find closer to the US dollar than Bitcoin. Okay, so if you are a holder of cash, bonds, real estate, if you're someone who invests, okay, and you want to buy a bunch of Bitcoin and you don't want to hold all of that in Bitcoin, you can hold it in a denomination that is closer to the US dollar, okay? It's a way to diversify in a safe way. And it was only this year that a regulatory framework has been established where this company, which IPO'd in June, can gain adoption on an institutional and high net worth level, okay? And money can flow into this company as opposed to specifically people who are slightly more risk-taking who would buy the stablecoin itself, okay? Compared to people who are even more risk-taking who would buy Bitcoin, okay? Which, again, Bitcoin is getting on the level of the dollar. So I'm really splitting hairs in terms of how risk averse one might be. This is for the very highly risk averse. It is an IPO, but those are all the reasons why it's not just some Yahoo crypto, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Ethereum treasury that came out yesterday. This is the company that offers USDC to the public. So it's kind of like the gold standard, which again is a relic of the past, but it's what you call a fiat-backed stablecoin, okay? So it's backed by reserves in regulated financial institutions. That's important. I keep underscoring that. Regulated. So this is very safe. Now, a little more about what the Genius Act is for guiding and establishing national innovation for U.S. stablecoins. Okay. Signed into law in July. Okay. This is the IPO in June. This is July. Price did stabilize, but IPOs were also just coming down. Okay. Coreweave also came down at that time, the Nvidia backed AI infrastructure company. So Figma IPO has been pretty mispriced from the beginning, and Figma is a company that Adobe wanted to acquire for $20 billion. So look, I mean, is this IPO performance insane? No, but we don't want insane IPO performance. That's what you see in an extreme bubble like the late 90s. So don't get too hung up on what this volatility looks like. What we want to look at is these levels, which I gave you, 118, 115, and then 130. So you can buy at 135 or wherever we're at right now. Look for a big upside, risk $5 to $10. Final bit of detail for the value heads. These are the dates. Okay, Genius Act was signed into law mid-late July. Long time coming. Well, a year and a half. Basically since the new administration came in, that sort of expedited it, and that's when it was introduced in February, so last year. This is the main guy, okay, who sort of champions this, okay, David Sachs, stablecoin, AI and cryptos are. He is appointed. He is working in the White House. And lastly, I don't know that you need to worry about these partnerships, but they do have partnerships with the biggest of the biggest, of course. Okay, they're USDC. Binance is definitely top of that list. So, if you do like connection to Nvidia, well, in September, this is the biggest news for Circle. They haven't had a lot of news since their IPO. But this news came out in September, which is now, depending on when you're exactly watching this video. Hopefully you're watching it in the next week or two, because that's the best opportunity, ideally today or tomorrow. But they do have this connection to Nvidia indirectly. They have a partnership with Coreweave, which is has Nvidia as an investor, and they're integrating Circle stablecoin USDC solutions. So basically, how USDC is able to be so stable, to sort of say the technology in a hand-wavy way, into Coreweave's basically AWS, Amazon Web Services like platform. So it's a big deal. It's a strong sign of confidence that it's linked indirectly to Nvidia. And Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan expressed caution. I mean, those are warranted. This is from Reuters. Expressions of caution, but also keep in mind, I don't believe that they have a vested interest in the success of USDC, let alone crypto at all. So do have to look at incentives, and we don't really need to get too granular into the detail of evaluation again, because it is an IPO. And of course, the investor relations will just be positive and a bit biased, okay? Which is why we talk about companies on this channel. So you get a more balanced look from another investor who's trying to filter through all. Oh, sorry, I was being mean to ChatGPT if you saw that there for a second. It's giving me the wrong company. This is the company, CRCL, and you don't have to listen to analyst price targets, but I don't think 230 is too crazy, given that's where it was just a few months ago. Do you have to hold it for 230? No, I gave you the price levels. You know, $200 is going to be a huge hold dollar level. You can actually see most of the volume was traded there since the IPO. But these are the levels right now, okay? Just about one, see, going back to late August, mid 130s, and then this 20-day moving average is important for it to come back and maybe kiss. If you do like this analysis where I give you when to get in, where to get in, why to get in, and you want some help, maybe you don't know what a moving average is. Maybe you don't use this charting platform I'm using. Maybe you use a completely different one. Maybe you use Robinhood. Maybe you use Schwab. Maybe you use Ameritrade. I don't know what you use. I can help you with that. I can help you with stocks to buy and how to buy them and how to see what they're up to. And this is not for the person who looks at their screens every second of the day. This is for someone who can step away. Whether you got a job, whether you got other stuff going on, you're busy. So if that's interesting, head over to stockscommunity.com. Try it out for $25 for 7 days. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube.